You probably think Tornado Werebear was dead seasons ago, but the leaderboard says otherwise. Top 10 domination, over and over. Different setups, different players, but all using the same skills. This is a build not enough people are talking about. No flashy thumbnails, no recent Reddit hype, and the best part, half of the community doesn't even understand why it's working or how it's quietly breaking the meta while everyone chases flashier builds. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a fluke. In fact, this was a monster hiding in plain sight. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly why it's dominating the top 10 leaderboards and how you can build it for yourself to crush endgame content at 1000 corruption and beyond. Let's rewind for a second, because on paper, this build doesn't make sense. You see, Tornado was always that flashy set and forget skill. Good for style points, sure, but scaling, clunky. Damage, mid. Meanwhile, Werebear was known for big melee slams, but zero spell synergy. So now, you have two worlds that were never meant to mix. Until someone decided to ask the forbidden question. What if Tornado Storm Bolts could scale off of Werebear's melee modifiers? Now you might be thinking, wait, how would that even be possible? Well, as you may already know, Tornado hits constantly and spawns Storm Bolts in the process. When you combine that with Werebear's massive melee scaling, well, something truly stupid happens. Each Storm Bolt starts acting like a mini melee nuke. Then what you end up with is this relentless loop of swirling lightning and brute force, swinging damage instead of casting it. Best part is, most of the time you don't even need to do anything. Pop your inner Werebear, start running around and everything just dies on and off screen. The moment you see it in action, it's hard not to find it silly. I found myself so many times clearing entire maps before even seeing half of what I kill. You are literally shredding high corruption mods while barely lifting a finger. And bosses? Gone before the music starts. It's really no wonder a lot of players at the top of the leaderboard are secretly running this exact setup. Not only to level up, but to crush the endgame like it's nothing. And now it's time for you to see exactly how this beautiful engine runs.
君たちごときがこの私に判決か。いささか滑稽に移るな。してあるからと図人の余計兵を2万年に引き上げろ。挽回。
So let's break this thing down, because my friend, if you understand the moving parts, you will see exactly why this build feels like it's legal cheating. At its heart, Tornado Werebear relies on three things: Stormbolt uptime, melee scaling conversion, and rage sustain to keep the engine running. So first, let's talk about the Tornado. We need Tornado to hit constantly, not occasionally. The Charge Storm node gives this Stormbolt behavior, so every Tornado spawn lightning bolts that track enemies around instead of drifting around like a confused balloon. Then stack the frequent lightning node to drastically increase the hit rate of those bolts. And now, every second, you've got a pocket cyclone spamming bolts faster than your GPU fans can spin. Oh, and here's where it gets wild. Those bolts, they scale beautifully with the Gathering Storm skill, letting you juice up how often they occur, and this is exactly what makes it possible to not only convert our melee damage into spell damage, but also turn our mana pool into a damage boosting battery. Still with me so far? Good! Because this is where the insanity starts to multiply. Next, Werebear form. Now bear with me for a second. Normally, transforming into a bear locks you out of casting spells, right? Wrong! Because Tornado actually persists. You see, when you cast it before transforming, the game still treats it as active spells. Translation? They keep zapping enemies and gives us an opportunity to amp up their damage to illegal levels. Let me explain. In Werebear form, two buttons define the chaos: Warcry and Rampage. Warcry is mainly responsible for maxing out your crit chance on activation, which means any tornado or lightning bolt currently active on the field can now reliably crit. Furthermore, it makes you immune to damage, so you can literally time this before a dangerous attack and brush it off like you just got stung by a bee. But the true madness? Rampage. You see why we have Rampage active? Not only is your global damage increased by up to 150%, but you can also proc up to 5 additional lightning bolts each second. Mind you, we can do this infinitely, by the way, with our rage sustain. And the crazy part is, Werebear's melee bonuses apply to the hit calculation on the tornado's lightning bolts. So while other druids are sitting there spamming swipe like it's 2023, this setup is casually multiplying the damage of every single tornado hit, every lightning bolt strike, and any damage over time active on the field. Add attunement for elemental scaling, and strength for raw hit power, and suddenly, you are double dipping on both sides of the equation. So to summarize, cast tornadoes, tornadoes spawn storm bolts, bolts inherit melee scaling, and your rage keeps it rolling forever. Now all this horsepower means nothing without a transmission built to handle it. So next, let's pop the hood and talk gear. This is where the whole setup hits overdrive. The holy trinity of this build is simple: Spirit Xylem, Rule of the Simoon, and Eye of the Storms. Each one amplifies a different part of your power curve and turns this build from strong to absolutely cracked. At first glance, this looks like a typical high-end caster staff with flashy numbers. But look deeper and you see that it secretly gives us a big chunk of spell and melee damage. Remember earlier when we converted melee scaling into spell scaling? Oh yes baby, this is a staff that supercharges the possibility. Each tornado bolt now scales directly off your melee power, and the hidden sauce? Reduce mana and health costs, meaning tornado spam becomes self-sustaining. You're now tossing cyclones for pennies, while staying in Werebear form forever and watching your bolts do all the work. Think of Spirit Xylem as the control tower of the build, regulating how efficiently every tornado flies and how much juice the engine pumps out. Now this one, oh boy. It turns you into a literal storm factory. Every hit, from any source, has a 30% chance to spawn a stationary fire tornado near enemies. And this is not just for show. These are fully functional tornadoes that copy half of your main tornado's mana cost and inherit all your relevant scaling. That means more bolts, more AoE, more chaos. Add in extra fire damage, elemental resist, armor, and suddenly, your offense becomes your defense. If Spirit Xylem is the brain, and Rule of Simoon the hands, then Eye of Storm is the heartbeat. This amulet autocasts Maelstrom every 3 seconds, totally hands-free. Each Maelstrom stack increases crit chance and lightning damage, feeding your tornado bolts a constant supply of steroids. It's effortless power, it's automatic uptime, and it fits perfectly into the fire and forget theme of this build. Now you see why I like to call this the Holy Trinity. Spirit Xylem fuels the tornado engine with raw scaling and infinite sustain, Rule of the Simoon multiplies tornado count and adds fiery sidearms, and Eye of the Storms keeps the lightning heart beating non-stop for full crit uptime. Now we've covered the engine, the synergy, and the gear, but that's only half the beast. Because get this, the real power of Tornado Werebear is in what it does, it's how you play it.
Santoryu Rengok.
See, the funny thing about this build is that it doesn't even care if you're paying attention, it just works. But when you do pay attention, when you sync with its rhythm, that's when it simply becomes an experience. At first, Tornado Werebear feels like chaos. Everything is evaporating, so much so you can't even tell what is hitting what. But then, the chaos starts to breathe. You realize every moment, every transformation, every tornado placement is part of the rhythm, and that's when you start feeling the map move with you. For mapping, oh, you don't need to do much. Transform, hold rampage, and just run around the map like a starving wolf, spamming Warcry while everything burns. Every step spawns tornadoes, every tornado spits out lightning bolts, and every bolt scales harder through Warcry and Maelstrom. Then when the boss appears, you don't panic, my friend. Time to focus this chaos, and it's quite simple to do really. Drop tornadoes on the spawn point till you run out of mana, preload your Warcry between spams, transform, start rampage, and watch the boss's health bar disappear faster than the streamer's RNG lock.
Nice.
Mapping, smooth as butter. Bossing, laughably efficient. Endgame echoes, You blink, and they're gone. It's quite silly and looks brainless most of the time, but it actually rewards precision. Every reposition, every tornado placement, every cooldown timing adds a layer of efficiency that compounds over hundreds of echoes. Once you internalize that flow, you stop feeling like a druid, my guy. You'll become the storm itself. So, why is this build really dominating the leaderboards? Why Tornado Werebear, of all things? Because it breaks one of Last Epoch's core balance assumptions, that you can't have simultaneous scaling between melee and spell archetypes without trade-offs. This build proves you absolutely can. You stack in hybrid scaling across strength, attunement, and flat melee damage, while hijacking spell mechanics that were never meant to handle that much multiplicative force. In other words, you literally bypassing the sandbox. And yet, it's not an exploit. It's just smart synergy. No bugs, no cheese. You simply reading between the lines of the system's design. That's what separates the good players from the leaderboard slayers. And before you know it, you're sitting on something so powerful, it feels like the devs forgot to nerf it. Every storm ends, but this one, nah, this one lingers. A so-called meme build turned leaderboard monster, a synergy the community slept on, now turned into a literal force of nature. The Tornado Werebear is nothing short of poetic. Constant motion, relentless sustain, violence wrapped in elegance. When you play right, it doesn't even feel like you're commanding a build. Oh no, brother, it feels like you are the build. You are the storm, the fury, the thing that clears echoes faster than loading screens. And that is exactly why it's quietly farming the top 10. Not because it's flashy, but because it's efficient. Because it respects scaling, uptime, and synergy better than almost any other druid setup this patch. If you've been sleeping on it, please don't. If you've written enough as old tech, boy, you're missing out on one of the strongest experiences in Last Epoch right now. Now, if you found this breakdown helpful, learned something new, or felt like I earned it, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what build you want me to dissect next. And as always, stay stylish, stay untouchable, and may your crits always be juicy.